Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to try to start this session in just a second. So if anyone that's hanging around outside in the hall would like to come on in to but come on back into the auditorium, that would be great. I'd also like to make a very quick announcement. I know we're having weighty discussions about Pakistan, but I just wanted to talk very briefly about coffee and about food. A reminder, please don't bring drinks and food into the room. We've had some issues with stains on the floor, and it isn't good. So please just make sure to leave it outside, to finish what you need to do before you come in. So sorry for that. I'll get back to the discussion now, but just a public service announcement. So now I will turn things over to Shahzad, who will take us through this next panel. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Diaspora panel for this afternoon. This panel is focused on entrepreneurship in Pakistan. By the way, I had some prepared remarks, but the group over here heckled me, so I've actually decided to drop my prepared remarks and go somewhat like, a freestyle over here. I'll take the lead from them. But nonetheless, we have the format today is that Courtney will provide from the State Department, provide some opening remarks. The panel will dissect the diaspora entrepreneurship issue and how it can help investment and support for Pakistan from the US. And then Andalib Abbas, who is from the PTI government, will provide us some closing remarks at the end. So with that said, I'd like to introduce Courtney. Courtney is the Deputy Director at the Office of Pakistan Affairs, Bureau of South and Central Asia. Courtney has worked extensively on South Asia, Eastern Europe, and the US economy and foreign assistance plans. Courtney's also served in Congress on the House of Representatives and Appropriations Committee. And prior to joining government, she has deep experience in the nonprofit sector and has a master's from Princeton University. So let us welcome Courtney to the podium.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Hi, Shahzad. Thank you so much for this, for the invitation to this panel, and I'm honored to be here on this panel with such distinguished panelists. So again, I'm from the State Department. Let me just take a few minutes to give you some thoughts on this topic, and then I'd be happy to turn it over to others. So I think folks are aware that the U.S. government has had the pleasure of both outreach and other forms of contact to the Pakistani diaspora on a range of efforts, both including just keeping lines of communication open, but also in some cases specifically fostering business ties. Everywhere, it's always very refreshing to be around such innovative thinkers who are dedicated to the US-Pakistan relationship and who serve as a very natural bridge between the two countries. As a previous boss of mine in the State Department once said, if the US-Pakistan relationship can be less about government to government and more about business to business and university to university and people to people, we will all be better off. So at the outset, let me just say very unequivocally that whatever tensions might exist in the broader relationship, the U.S. remains absolutely committed to building strong commercial ties with Pakistan. We absolutely see commercial ties as a win-win for both countries, for U.S. companies, and for Pakistan's economy. So as Henry Ensher from the State Department said yesterday, Pakistan has many of the fundamentals in place from our perspective. It has a sizable English-speaking population, a strong tech base, good growth, and a fast-growing middle class. So this is absolutely paralleled in the Pakistani diaspora population, of course, which has made such rich contributions to the United States and elsewhere. I believe the 2010 census estimated that over 350,000 Pakistani diaspora live in the United States, although I've also seen it as high as close to 500,000. So in that broader context of a really large group of Americans, Pakistani Americans are high achievers on average. The data shows that they attain higher education levels than the general U.S. population, and their household income is about 20% higher than the national average. So they also contribute, of course, very profoundly to Pakistan's development. As we know, Pakistani Americans and the diaspora in general are deeply involved in social impact causes. And then this parallels, interestingly, we just saw recently that Pakistan's rank jumped from 142 to 34th for receiving social impact cause donations, according to the World Giving Index. So Those ties are very profound, of course. Pakistan's also one of the top 10 recipients of remittances worldwide, with global diaspora sending, I think it's estimated to be about $17 billion to Pakistan annually. Further, of course, Pakistani Americans own land in Pakistan, are large consumers of various industries, et cetera. So that, of course, sets the frame for an observation, which are those levels of inflows demonstrate great potential in many ways. But one of the observations that we have seen is that there's an integral segment of Pakistan's development that lacks widespread Pakistani American diaspora engagement, and that is specifically business investments. We have found that that is not as active an area in Pakistani diaspora activity in ties with Pakistan as with others. And we consider this somewhat surprising, right? They have, Pakistani Americans have the cultural familiarity, the personal ties, the language skills to move easily throughout the country and the capital to invest. And yet, we often see them shying away from investing in Pakistan and attempting to navigate the business climate. Obviously, this is a generalization. I don't want to overstate the case, but this is a trend that we hear anecdotally, and it's also supported in some of the data we found. So when we hear this, it has parallels to what we see from broader U.S. companies. Many U.S. companies, especially large ones, experience really strong growth and profits in Pakistan, and they see it as an economy with great growth potential, but they also see the trade, the impediments to trade and investment as very real. And while many companies manage their way through of those, it often scares off potential entrants, new entrants to the Pakistani market. And certainly that's reflected in sort of the World Bank Ease of Doing Business indicators, which puts Pakistan at 147 out of 190 countries in that index. So more specifically, when we, of course, are in contact with U.S. companies doing business in Pakistan all the time, the challenges that we probably hear cited most are bureaucratic red tape, intellectual property rights enforcement, inequitable tax treatment, a slow judicial system, and at times de facto capital controls, preventing U.S. companies from repatriating their profits. It's also worth noting that we've had a number of U.S. companies that have had interest but difficulty figuring out how they can plug into the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, projects. So we regularly raise these kinds of business climate issues with the government, and we, of course, will do so with the new government. But arguably, I think from our perspective, we think that diaspora voices are perhaps the most compelling ones to carry this message back to Pakistan, right? As the bridge between the countries and the business climates, members of the diaspora are the most credible voice on what the country needs to do to really attract global business and investment. When the business climate improves and Pakistani Americans really start to dramatically expand the extent to which they actually do business and make profits with Pakistan, I feel confident that that will have a real demonstration effect, that U.S. firms not involved with Pakistan now will take notice that their diaspora community in America and across the world is seeing Pakistan as an area of opportunity. I also want to note, just in very practical terms, that the U.S. government has a number of very concrete tools to strengthen business ties between the U.S. and Pakistan. We, of course, want to use those tools to benefit the U.S. business community, and the Pakistani American community is an important part of that. So let me cite a few examples specifically. The U.S. Overseas Private Investment Corporation, or OPIC, supports private sector investment in the developing world, including Pakistan. OPIC provides U.S. businesses with the tools to manage risk associated with FDI in a range of locations. Over time, OPIC has committed over $2 billion through more than 130 projects in Pakistan and continues to seek more actively. The specific tools they have include political risk insurance, debt financing, and support for private equity investment funds to U.S. companies. This is also, I should note, a fast-changing growth area in the United States right now. So some of you may be tracking that the Better Utilization of Investments Leading to Development Act, or which is known as the BUILD Act, just became U.S. law in the last month. And this legislation will in fact create a new development finance corporation, or a DFC, in the coming years. Once that is fully operational in 2019, it's envisioned that that new DFC will subsume the work of OPIC and USAID's Development Finance Office. And so with a worldwide lending limit of $60 billion, which is $31 billion more than OPIC's current limit, the new DFC would continue to offer loans and political risk insurance, but will have the opportunity to expand that even more, do more in equity investments and feasibility studies. So we expect that that will greatly expand over time U.S. Private sector interest in doing business in countries like Pakistan. So this is a space to watch, right? Also, I should note that the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID, has relatively recently established a innovation and partnerships unit in Pakistan, working specifically to leverage resources from the private sector and the diaspora communities for projects advancing development in Pakistan through a sustainable manner in partnership with the private sector. So let me give you a couple examples of that. USAID, for instance, directly financed $400,000 for MIT's Business Acceleration Program in Pakistan, which supports Pakistani technology innovators and facilitates matching with U.S. venture capitalists. Through a partnership with the Association of Physicians of Pakistani Descent of North America, or APNA, which many of you know, USAID has helped patients and collaborated with local businesses to finance the cost of telemedicine in Pakistan. Notably also in June, this in very practical terms, let me note that in June, USAID issued a grants notice, which is a public solicitation for business project ideas that USAID would fund in Pakistan. They continue to welcome applicants for that, including U.S. businesses and members of the diaspora to participate in this funding opportunity. So there's some innovative structures in place to try to expand that kind of cooperation. You're, of course, probably aware that the Department of Commerce has a U.S. Commercial Service office in Karachi, which offers a wide range of services for U.S. businesses interested in doing business in Pakistan, including trade counseling, partner searches, personalized business matchmaking, single company promotion, trade shows, and market research. And then also, lastly, since many people aren't aware of this, the U.S. Trade and Development Agency, which is called USTDA, also focuses on energy, transportation, telecommunication links to support opportunities for U.S. businesses to export by funding project preparation or partnership building or feasibility studies for sustainable infrastructure in partner countries. So those are some of the very practical tools that the U.S. government puts forward that could facilitate the diaspora community's business involvement in Pakistan. There are lots of good tools out there. If you'd like more information specifically on any of those initiatives that I mentioned, please find me after the panel, and I'm happy to connect you with the right people in the U.S. government that can give you more information about those kinds of opportunities. And then lastly, let me just briefly mention one initiative, which I think one of our panelists will also talk about, which is the U.S.-Pakistan Women's Council, which since 2012 has been a public-private partnership in which the State Department has been involved and has brought in a range of companies, mostly U.S., but some Pakistani, that, again, harnesses the private sector to advance the agenda of women's economic advancement in Pakistan, in the workplace and in the economy. So that's a partnership that we are proud of, and I think I'll leave it at that. So, in closing, I think there's a lot of work to be done, but I hope this gives you a good sense of where we see the possibilities and where we can take things in the future. Thanks again.
Thank you, Courtney. I think that provides a very good overview of the discussion that we were planning to have today. The panel over here is very talented, and our goal today is to dissect this issue into more detail. Uh, just a little bit more overall context, as you saw from the session earlier today, we were speaking more on macroeconomic issues. This touches upon more microeconomic issues as well as, and connects, I think, the theme of the conference as we're moving forward. As we get started, I would like to do the following, follow a slightly different format compared to some of our other panels. I will make a quick introduction of who I am, and I'll give each of the panelists an opportunity to introduce them. I think they have an amazing set of backgrounds. We're very fortunate to have these folks travel in, some of them just for a few hours, to be here, to participate. And with that, we will throw out a few set of topic areas that each of us can discuss and dissect. So with that said, I will introduce myself, I guess, starting off. My name is Shahzad Habib. I serve as a special advisor to Indus. I'm also the managing partner and president of Manhattan Strategy. We're a US government contractor focused on education, human services, and workforce, providing technical assistance evaluation for US grants. We are a company that focuses on social capitalism, making a difference while making a profit. And interestingly, we have been the company that supported USTDA, that was mentioned over here, in doing the feasibility analysis worldwide for some of their programs, including some of the work in Pakistan that Courtney just mentioned. So that's a little quick tidbit on who I am. And I'll just request to maybe just go around the panel, and each of you can maybe give a quick highlight of your experience and background for the audience.
Hello everyone, I'm Sumaira. I'm heading We Create Pakistan, which is a women entrepreneurship center. And as Courtney mentioned, We Create is also one of the initiatives of the US State Department to foster and promote women entrepreneurship in developing countries. It is also a very good example of the public-private partnership, and primarily the private partner of We Create happens to be TIE Islamabad chapter. TIE, the Indus Entrepreneurs, is a not-for-profit organization that promotes entrepreneurship all over the world, and it originated out of the Silicon Valley and by the diaspora itself. So I'll speak more about it when I get a chance. More importantly, around my work, we see that looking forward in Pakistan's progress, women have to really have no choice but to play an instrumental role in the mainstream economy. And given the cultural context, entrepreneurship has that immense potential that women can tap onto. So I'll just be speaking more about how that can be leveraged towards the overall progress of the economy.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Naeem Zamindar, and I'm really passionate about entrepreneurship and innovation. I really believe that Pakistan's transformation depends on it. This energy, this youthful energy that our country has, where our average age is 21, is a force for change, and the technology revolution that's happening is going to allow them to unleash their potential and really create a new society. And therefore, I run something called Zamindar Capital, which is a venture capital and advisory firm. I used to be in the government. I used to be a minister in the previous government and chairman of the board of investment. I used to run Acumen, which is a social impact venture fund in Pakistan. And we made about 16 investments in some really amazing entrepreneurs. And some of them were from the diaspora. And then before that, I used to run a telecom company. But most importantly, what I'm most passionate about is unleashing human potential. So I teach a program which is called Mindfulness for Self-Mastery, where through a meditative process, you're able to find your inner power. And I really, that's what this is where I feel, Pakistan's opportunities. They've got so much energy and so much potential. We just need to unleash it and help them find a way to create this amazing, what Imran Khan calls it, a social welfare society.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Amra, and I want to give you a little bit of context. I was born in Pakistan, grew up in Pakistan, but then did high school in Australia. So I spent time in Sydney, Australia. My undergraduate is electrical engineering and computer science, and I came to the US to go to Harvard Business School. After I graduated, I worked in corporate America for Lucent Technologies, Bell Labs, moved to the Silicon Valley, worked at another company that got acquired, and then became a venture capitalist and invested in startups. But in 2000, actually after 9/11, I had my first child, and I realized that mainstream media in the US was very biased, so I wanted to create a citizen media company. But it took me a while. I had another son, and then I started my own company in 2007, which came from an idea, partnered with co-founders, raised total about 10 million in venture capital. And I sold the company in 2011 with 11 million monthly uniques and over 400,000 citizen journalists contributing from all around the world. I took 2012 off, and I helped a friend of mine from Harvard Business School start a company called Decorist, which was e-commerce in the furniture industry, but with home design to sell more average cart size to $2,500. Usually furniture companies online sell about a basket size of 300. Then I left to start another company called Littlecast, which was any creator who had a video could sell it on Facebook. Raised seed money of 2.5 million, launched the company, and then I wasn't particularly interested in going to Hollywood and getting more talent to sign on. So one of my co-founders took over the company, and then I was looking for my next venture. Actually at that point, I became the president of Open, which is the organization of Pakistani Entrepreneur Network in Silicon Valley. And the charter of Open is to increase entrepreneurship within the people in Silicon Valley. And Open, actually, Naveed, has 30 chapters around the world, and their goal is to encourage entrepreneurship. So as the president, we got our community more involved in entrepreneurship. We also had Fulbright students come and visit our big events, help guide, get access to capital, access to resources. And then I actually joined my friend from Decorist, and we sold her company to Bed Bath & Beyond. And now I have started and lead Bed Bath's innovation group outside, actually in Silicon Valley in San Francisco. And the new project and stuff that I'm working on is on AR, VR, because the future of retail is changing. So how do you do experiential retail in AR? And you'll be very interested to find out that my tech team is actually out of Lahore, Pakistan. And the 10 developers that work with me all the time have done gaming for a very long time for Disney and iPhone, and they're 3D experts, which are actually very hard to find in the US Silicon Valley itself. My previous companies also had development done outside of Lahore. And in a nutshell, that's my background.
Wow. Cool. That's quite a mouthful. And I guess last but not the least.
Let's see what I can do. All right. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So my name is Naveed Sherwani. You can probably tell I used to be a professor because I don't need mics to talk to people like that. So I was born in Pakistan. I graduated from a university called NED in Karachi. I was born in Karachi, actually. My parents and my family are originally from Sialkot. And many people who don't know, Sialkot is the entrepreneurial capital of the world, from my perspective. So actually, it's amazing what happens in Sialkot. It's an amazing place. All my cousins never made it past 8th grade, but they're millionaires. They are. And actually, the only reason my father moved out of Sialkot, he thought that my kids should become educated, and he didn't want to participate in that. Well, maybe that was a wrong move in the... But anyway, I am an entrepreneur from a very DNA perspective. I started my first company in Pakistan when I was 17 years old. It was a very successful company. It was kind of a Kaplan, kind of a school for helping people to get into professional colleges, initially with engineering colleges, then eventually to medical colleges. I was 17 years old. Then I came to United States, and for the last 35 odd years, I have been in the area of chip design. My entire focus has been in chip design. I have written many books. I have graduated many students, and I've started 10 companies in the area of chip design. One of my companies, I raised $45–50 million for it, and I sold it for $252 million about 4 or 5 years ago. And I've done other exits. In Pakistan, I've started 3 companies in various different things, but 2 of them in chip design and 1 in artificial intelligence on sales force automation. And couple of good experiences, couple of not so good experiences, but we'll, I guess, talk about that. And very currently, I am with the help of my wife. Actually runs a charity in Pakistan on education, trying to improve the education in public sector, i.e., government schools and poor schools. So we have a staff of about 125 people in Lahore, and we are working with Punjab Education Department as well, the Federal Education Department, to try to see that what can be done for 155,000 PILA schools, the government schools as we call them. And we strongly believe that unless you can improve the Pila schools in Pakistan, you can't improve anything, because that's where majority of Pakistanis go for education. And so that's kind of the passion. But anyway, I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship. I teach at Berkeley, a class on entrepreneurship. I'm the current chairman of the Open Organization of Pakistan Entrepreneur Network in Bay Area, and have been part of it for a very long time. And I mentor at any given time 15 to 20 startups, privately, just for fun, because that's a great thing to do. So very nice to be here, and I hope we can discuss this whole issue of how we can promote entrepreneurship in Pakistan, just like Naeem Amra. We strongly believe that without entrepreneurship, no economy can grow. And so we need to really, really put a strong effort into that.
So as you can see, we have no lack of talent on the stage over here. So let's take the bull by the horns and dive deep. But let's start with a high-level framing question, and that is, what can the US Pakistani diaspora do to spur and promote investment and entrepreneurship opportunities? So some high-level thoughts over there would be appreciated.
So I have a very short answer. A lot.
Okay.
Okay. So I think there are three components that we have to think about. I think there is the things that diaspora can do, and I think we will talk about that. There are things that I think the Pakistan government can do, and there is things that State Department can do, the US government can do. So I think this is a three-legged stool. I don't think diaspora can do something by itself unless without the help of the Pakistan government and the State Department is going to be very successful. So I think we should think of this as all three of them working together. For example, I was talking to Courtney before this, and one simple thing that State Department could do, which we have had seen, that there are all kind of travel advisories about Pakistan. So every time we talk to somebody, there's always issues. Well, if I do something in Pakistan, then I go to the State Department website and says you will be killed, kidnapped, or held for ransom. And, I'm just making up a joke here. So, but my point is that I think there is definitely something can be done. Pakistan is a much, much safer place today, much safer than many parts of the world. I think those advisories should be revised, hopefully can be revised. Pakistan government. I think Pakistan government can do a lot. For example, I think we have been talking to Pakistan government to enable the basic business infrastructure. And I was talking about a very simple example. Pakistan doesn't have a payment network, a mobile payment network that we can do international business on. PayPal would not start in Pakistan, various different reasons. We could have gone to WeChat Pay, we could have gone to Alibaba Pay, Alipay, and things like that. Do whatever. So that's an area that a Pakistan government could have taken a step to enable the mobile payments. That would have helped many people. That would help all the retail businesses that were being set up in Pakistan. That would have helped people who work, per hourly basis and support all these things. So I think those are the two areas, but there are examples, many. Diaspora. I think the biggest thing the diaspora can do, which I think from a Silicon Valley perspective, is we have core expertise in certain areas. We have core expertise in chip design. We have core expertise in setting up online businesses. We have core expertise in media. We have many core expertise, but yet we have not seen a very organized effort to go start these businesses in Pakistan, right? And I think this is what is needed. I think what we need to do, the diasporas need to do, is to stop acting as individuals, which is what has happened, is to form a more organized method. And if there could be a group of semiconductor executives, they said, all right, how can we get semiconductor business started by starting education first in all the major universities in Pakistan, start incubators perhaps, then accelerators, and then eventually chip design companies can be established. Chip design in particular, that's an area of my expertise, is not something that you need to do in Silicon Valley or India or China anymore. It can be done anywhere, mainly because it is moving to the cloud. And when it starts moving to the cloud, it can be done anywhere, right? Same thing we can do other sectors. So my message to diaspora has been that let's form groups of excited, interested people, and then that group together forms various different initiatives. And I think that organization is something that we need to work on.
Other comments on that or thoughts on that?
So as you know, with startups and entrepreneurship, it's a mixture of multiple things. You need a team, and usually founders. You have co-founders and a founding team that needs an idea, and then needs capital, whether it's friends and family, early stage to venture capital, different stages of capital. And then you also need talent for employee base to be hired. So those are all the things that you need. In addition, you need a law firm to incorporate a company, the structure of the company itself, ability for people to have equity in the company so that your stock options become valuable. So in the end, you can get rich if you want to be. So all those structures, I don't know if they exist in Pakistan to create a Silicon Valley type of atmosphere. So from Open tries to do this all the time, that we get entrepreneurs from Pakistan to come to raise money, and we sometimes take them to VCs within Silicon Valley, or sometimes if it's a small round, Open charter members or other individuals do invest in those companies. But there needs to be more formalized structure where if venture capitalists do go into Pakistan, there is some form of security that they're not going to be thrown out, or taxations, equity. How do you get an exit in a country like Pakistan in capital markets? So that whole structure does not exist, from what I can understand. Names Open company in Pakistan. So I do mainly outsourcing, and my goal for my next startup is to have co-founders in one of those companies and actually give stock options to people who spend hours and work sometimes 24 hours in the case at Bed Bath & Beyond right now, is that they have their skin in the game and they have equity so that they can see the value of entrepreneurship. So if you make it big. And we haven't seen that. That structure does not exist in Pakistan, and the government needs to make sure that type of structure exists. And all we need to do is create a few examples to get that whole engine going. And right now, there aren't any examples of companies that are formed and have exited. So another idea that I've had is that maybe you have co-founders in Pakistan and Silicon Valley, but they're equal partners, so that you can get investments from Silicon Valley VCs, who, by the way, as Nick and Naveed knows, that usually don't invest outside of the 30-mile zone. You know what I mean? They don't want to go to board meeting far away. So that means you need to have an infrastructure in Silicon Valley and an infrastructure in Pakistan. So there's a lot of ways we can work with the government to create the right environment and the structures to make entrepreneurship happen.
This is exciting. Anyone else thoughts on that?
I think that just adding to what you've already said, I think that taking Pakistan's entrepreneurial ecosystem, since it's very nascent, and if you're going to compare this to the landscape here in the US, of course there's no comparison that can be made. But yes, I think if the approach both of the government, of the ecosystem in Pakistan, and of the diaspora who wants to support the ecosystem in Pakistan, has to be that there needs to be an adaptation of the success factors, and then sort of culturally contextualize that. So startups in Pakistan, and I'm also going to bring in the perspective of the women-led startups. Like, they have absolutely no idea of for women, I would say that their approach will be to maybe launch businesses and then maybe just break even. There is absolutely no vision of taking those companies to a great scale. Right? So that can only happen when there's this confidence, and it's not just in terms of investment. I think there's this huge requirement of the kind of mentorship that can be brought in for these startups. Only then can we can see that kind of the examples that you're saying, the successful examples that will mark what the potential of the entrepreneurial landscape in Pakistan is.
I want to build upon all that's been said. I myself used to live in the Silicon Valley. I used to be a venture capitalist. I moved back to Pakistan to do a startup, right, in the meditation space, because I was really inspired by the idea. So I went back to Pakistan and I started the organization. And over the years, it's really taken off. But at the same time, I went back to also work because I had to make a living for myself. And I've been involved in the entrepreneurial ecosystem for the last many years, including with MIT and the whole business acceleration program that Open was working with us on. So for the last 14 years, I've been involved in that. And really, the whole entrepreneurial ecosystem in Pakistan, especially the tech entrepreneurship, has been seeded by diaspora returning to Pakistan. Many of the entrepreneurs who were based out of Silicon Valley, who came back for personal reasons primarily, right? Because of family reasons, they wanted to come relocate. And they started seeding an industry. And it's taken many years. I mean, I've seen this ecosystem slowly evolve. About 5 years ago, the first incubators came about, right? And it was started by another guy from MIT, Omar Saif, and he did a phenomenal job, and that started a whole industry. Now there are more than 35 incubators, and from less than 50 startups a year to over 500 startups coming up every year. And there's one entrepreneur sitting right in front who's just come out of that process, and many more. So it's now that whole revolution is starting to happen, and we have, and by the way, there's one more lady over there. She's sitting in the back. Her name is Asha Jadeja. She's an Indian from Silicon Valley, and she's got a Pakistani boyfriend, so she comes to Pakistan very often. And
Good for her.
And she has a lot of Pakistani friends, though,
and friends.
Yes.
in addition to the boyfriend.
But the boyfriend counts more.
More.
Well, I don't
So, and she's invested in a lot of startups. So the know-how, the diaspora is bringing a lot of value, right? Like I said, I really believe that this entrepreneurial ecosystem is going to transform Pakistan. What I saw happen, I was part of the cellular revolution where cellular technology transformed communication, right? From less than 3 million households having communication in 10 years' time, everybody having access is a phenomenal change. The same things will happen because of smartphone proliferation. Everybody will have access to the internet in the next 3 years, right? It's about to happen. And it's going to transform people's life. And now we need the ecosystem, right, which is going to enable it, including chip manufacturing, mobile handsets being manufactured. Pakistan is the 5th largest country in the world, right? 5th largest, 220 million people strong, and a massive market. And around it, you have another 2 billion people. So it's a phenomenal place to do business. And we need the diaspora to bring the know-how into Pakistan, right? And in terms of mentorship, in terms of even right now, the most successful entrepreneurs in Pakistan, right, in the tech space, are diaspora people who come back and set up companies, and phenomenal companies coming out of that. So it's very exciting. I just also want to give a data point, because when I was the chairman, board of investment, we did some research on the diaspora, right? It's phenomenal. There are about 8 million Pakistanis outside the country, of which there are 21 billionaires. These are the ones we could count. 4 of them in the US, right? These are the ones which we know of. I'm sure there must be many more, but these are the ones we know of. There were 200 centimillionaires, right, in the diaspora. And we have, I think, at least one for sure here, and maybe 2, right? So
No, I haven't reached my number yet.
so it's phenomenal, right? And according to estimates, there are about 250,000 millionaires, right? Which is phenomenal potential, and we really need to be able to reach out to them. We haven't given them the space and opportunity to come and contribute to Pakistan. I've spoken to many of them. Many of them want to come back and start businesses, but the biggest challenge that they bring up, right, is there's a lack of the rule of law. Well, that's what they call it, right? And it's not easy to do business in Pakistan. I think she said it, Courtney said it clearly, 147 out of 190 countries. It's really hard to do business. And that is the biggest stumbling block, right? If you can create that, create a place which is safe for them to return. According to estimates, right, out of the 8 million, we expect 3 million of them to return to Pakistan within the next 5 to 7 years, right? Mostly from the Middle East, because there's a major shift happening there, and also from the West, right, where we are. Some of the surveys are showing that, right? A lot of them are feeling uncomfortable. There is, Islamophobia is becoming a challenge here, but an opportunity for us, because many of them are now thinking of returning to Pakistan. But they're not able to because it's very difficult to go back, right? So just a few points.
But I think more than that, I would say also Pakistan has one of the fastest growing middle class. And I think that's a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs. The reason is that when the middle class grows, you don't have to really innovate too much. You can just go what we call copy to Pakistan program. You can just take a whole bunch of things that work here for the middle class, and you can just start making copies of business models that have worked, create prototype in Pakistan, make sure the prototype works, and then you can scale from there. So most VCs invest in projects if the business risks have been taken out. If the business was working somewhere already, you just have to take out the locality risk out of the business. It's an easier funding model, right? So I think whenever we have a very big growing middle class, they need services and products, a whole bunch of them. And I think that's a big opportunity for Pakistan. Of course, a lot of foreign injection is going on in Pakistan. Infrastructure is going up in Pakistan. I believe we are over the hump with the power generation issues and things like that. That's getting solved. So I think all of those things will eventually help many new businesses to get established. And I think the next 5 to 10 years are going to be the golden years for entrepreneurs in Pakistan, just because there are so many ready-made customers sitting in front of them. You just have to produce the goods and services that they need, typically, which is a problem in everywhere else in the world. That's not the problem in Pakistan. We have a growing, accepting population. We just need to service those needs.
Also, because I think that there is also a mindset shift amongst the youth as well, from being just job seekers. There is now a positive inclination towards pursuing entrepreneurship as a career, and this is not just amongst the male population, but also the female population. Also, because entrepreneurship also gives women the flexibility that a typical job structure might not give them, especially mothers, and because of the family responsibilities that are prevalent in our social structure. So this opportunity that entrepreneurship gives them is, again, one of the great incentives that pushes the youth towards pursuing this entrepreneurship.
And just to add, I've been sitting through most of the panels, and the picture of Pakistan that's been painted, because there's an education problem and higher education problem, and so to me, all those problems are opportunities, seriously, as an entrepreneur. And if you look at the United States, the best entrepreneurs who've made the biggest difference, or who have created real wealth for the country, those are college dropouts. So they are smart people. They have actually not gone through college, and they pick up skills as they go through the whole journey of entrepreneurship. So from my perspective, I think that Pakistan should take advantage of entrepreneurship. There's online educational courses in computer science, in gaming, in 3D modeling. There's these industries of the future where they could actually develop skill set at relatively low cost. Personally, I don't believe in college education, but I'm the type of generation who my kids will go through college, so I'm caught in there. But to me, if you look at Peter Thiel's university, you don't need to go to college, because your skills are changing and technology is changing so fast that what you learn today is not going to be relevant 6 years from now. So yes, having the basic reading, writing, analytical skills should be taught at our schools, but to really create companies and innovation for the future, our future is going to change. What we see today, even in the US, in the next 10 years is not going to be the same, because we're on the exponential curve of technology, and things are going to change very fast. So for us, it's time to build the foundation, build in structures for creating companies, for entrepreneurship, and then leverage that technology skills and growth, and train our people to learn those skills online with very little amount of capital required.
Let me pick up on two quick things over here.
Before you do that, see, when we started this panel, he was so worried that we should have prepared.
I was looking for prepared remarks similar to all the panels.
How will we go through? He was really worried all of us will sit like this, and nobody will ask any questions. He was really worried about that. I told him not to worry about it. But anyway, still worrying about it. Okay, so I want to say one more thing. I think this is something I'm personally involved in. I think one of the good things we should do, and I think all development countries, and actually in the United States also we should do that, is throw out the education system that British started in 1820s. This is the greatest favor we can do to the humanity, to get rid of it. It is a choke around our necks. It is a disaster. I went through the system. It is called the Ratta system. If you don't know what is Ratta system, all Pakistanis know that and all Indians know that, but American crowd, Ratta is a word. I think that it's a very vaguely, we can call it rote memorization. It is actually a lot more than that. It basically says, don't look up, don't talk back, don't innovate, don't think. So it's not just rote memorization, it is killing of the mind. And that system was put in place in 1820s and 1840s. Probably British thought that's how they have to run the Raj. Probably was right at that time to do. But that has really choked us. And I think if you think about that, that in countries like Pakistan, where 155,000 government schools provide the basic education, it's amazing what is happening. We have almost 10:1 drop-off ratio out of our primary schools. Of every 10 people who go to a primary school, where you probably don't know, 22.6 million people don't go to a primary school, and 77% of them have never been to a school in Pakistan. So that is one issue. But the people who are going to school, 9 of them actually don't make it to the secondary schools. The number of secondary schools in Pakistan are pathetically very small, while there is no demand for it, because most of the people drop out, right? I think, so first of all, I think if we have to do something for entrepreneurship in Pakistan, is starting with the education, where we take away this mentality that rote memorization, you work for a degree, you get a degree. These are a concepts that we have to get away from. I think we should follow the example of China. China about 10 years ago realized something big. There are no jobs for people coming out of their massive education system. So China realized that if every 5th guy does not start a company to hire the 4 colleagues, we are dead. That's it.
That's a fact.
If you go study, I spend about 80% of my time in China these days, because I have companies there. But and no girlfriend there. I mean, just I want to be very clear. Aisha spends a lot of time in Pakistan because there's a reason. The only reason I spend time in China is because of business there. Okay. So, but my point really is that what we learn from them is very important. China has a huge problem. Huge number of people walking out every year with bunch of pieces of paper in their hand called degrees, but there are no jobs. Only way out of that is entrepreneurship. Only way. Pakistan is in a similar situation.
Right.
And what China has done, start at the primary education. They have introduced entrepreneurship classes in primary education. Mindset has to be changed from the very beginning.
Yes.
Okay? It takes time, but people should naturally think like that. I think this is one, I'm working on a charity in Pakistan, which is actually trying to do that. We teach entrepreneurship to 4-year-olds. You'll be amazed what you can teach a 4-year-old about standing on your own. How teams, at 4-year-old, we run classes where we ask people to form teams. You see natural leadership in 4-year-olds to get something done in 4-year-olds. If you do that, you see the difference. You go to a Pakistani school, you will see something. You ask a student, this is how a Pakistani student sits. I'll do a demo for you. बेटा आपका नाम क्या है? मेरा नाम नवीद. Perfect. क्या पढ़ते हैं आप? I'm saying in Urdu, but the point is, the idea is they never look up to you. They will always look down. They have been told to look down. Submit. This is the message of the education system that British put in place.
I just want to add a little bit to this. Like we're saying that we should, introduce the mindset at a very early age, and that I agree to. But we also need to understand that the way the society functions, it automatically discourages the spirit of entrepreneurship.
100% agree.
There is so much. So I think one of the I could be wrong, but I think there was this one time when a very successful entrepreneur said that I wouldn't probably have really reached the level of success, and if I would have also had the kind of family obligations to so boys in the Pakistani culture are from the very start trained in a manner that you have to very soon take over the responsibility of the father and start contributing or taking over monetarily taking care of the family, which is why there's so much pressure for them to and the only emancipation is to get a job and be able to. So which is why it's a very set path for them. And they see that this is, getting a degree and another degree and a safe, secure job is the only way that they're going to, be able to fulfill these obligations. So taking the entrepreneurial route is going to be not just an adventure, but also in a way a revolt towards how the parents have, envisioned their future, the children's future, especially the male child. So that's also, and even now, I interact primarily with women-led startups, but I know that, for a young boy or a college graduate to say to his parents that I'm not going to go find a job, rather I'm going to start a startup, then it's like the parents are going to have a grim look on their face, because that means that he's not anytime going to, start
I'll tell you a
taking
story.
over.
When I was 17 years old, I started a company. By age 21, I was making 25,000 rupees per month running my business in Pakistan in 1981. After I finished my degree in NED University, I was a mechanical engineer. I got a job. Everybody can see I have a car. I have my own car. I bought my own car with cash. And I was running a business. Nobody ever congratulated me on that. After NED, I got a job. And the job paid 1,800 rupees. I got a whole bunch of mithai dabbas from all my rishtadars.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Mubarak ho, bache ki job lag gayi. And I mean, they can't see. I mean, with that job, I can never afford the car I currently have. This is the mindset.
Yes.
But that was 1982. I'm not saying that mindset is there, but I think this is what I totally agree with you. This is the mindset that we are fighting against. But despite all that, I think what I see, I go to Pakistan every 2 months. And because my wife lives in Pakistan, that's the reason. I'm very careful about explaining these things because people say. So anyway, my wife lives and runs a charity there. But what I see in Pakistani youth today is an absolute hunger for doing something different. They are not like us, and I'm very proud of them. I talk to them, they have the hunger, they want to do. Uncle, मुझे बताएं, startup करना है, कैसे करना है, पैसे कैसे raise करते हैं, idea दें, mentor करें, ये करें, वो करें. It's amazing. And I meet so many of them, and as much time I can spend with them, I do that. So I really think that we are on the upswing, and I see a lot of local support. Diaspora needs to help those guys, but I think I see a lot of youth energy there as well.
No, but they really need the help. I mean,
Absolutely.
and the potential is phenomenal. One of the challenges has been our diaspora hasn't engaged as much as the Indian diaspora, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
The way they've been effective in terms, especially in the Indian startup ecosystem, they played a massive role. And you don't see that happen in Pakistan. I think that is something we need to work upon.
Yeah, agreed.
Two quick comments. You brought up the concept of C2P, copy to Pakistan. A high school colleague of mine started Kareem, correct? That is an amazing example.
Yes.
Someone that I went to school with, someone that
Did
was
you
sitting
have
next to
shares
me.
in there?
Well, I guess I was too late to that party.
Obviously not entrepreneur.
No, but the thing about Kareem is the company is in Dubai.
Yes, but it
and
services Pakistan too.
investment is coming to Dubai, and then
Correct.
he's got everyone in Pakistan. So I think that's still an issue because how media portrays U.S. Media and other media portrays Pakistan, that investment becomes an issue.
Well, let him make his point.
Yes,
We are
okay.
not
You're not giving me a chance.
Let him talk. Okay. We'll
So-
be very quiet now.
So two quick comments. One is the C2P, if copy to Pakistan, if any examples of that. And second is, I think Naeem also brought up another point that investment opportunities and what are the sectors in Pakistan that are attractive from an investment perspective that we should think about. And I think after those two comments, we would like to maybe move on with the agenda. I think in the interest of time, we would like Andareep to speak as well and have some Q&A with the audience. So if you can address these two quick comments or points, that'd be great.
Well, Naveed's
What-
already said semiconductor is an area he's
No,
interested in.
semiconductor is going to be very tough. So the part of semiconductor which I'm trying to do, and maybe this is not the right audience to talk about that. I'm trying to start a China-Pakistan microelectronics center. So, but that is going to be partly funded by China, and that's a good example. I think we should do many things from here as well. But the idea is we can move design into Pakistan, not the manufacturing, the design, because design is actually moving to cloud. And so what we are trying to do there is to get 10 top universities to start classes in design, chip design, and then build an incubator on top of that. So that I think something can be done because design is something that has played a big role in India. And I started Intel Design Center in India in 1999. And so that was a phenomenal success and many other design centers. So I think this is something that we can copy from India to Pakistan, that such talent exists and that can be done. So that's one area.
So the other area that actually I'm learning more about, and I'm about to start a business, and I'm hoping that I can't say much because it's live streaming, that, where I am invests and I'll also raise money. But emerging technologies, where if we can train the people in Pakistan to develop businesses, there'll be lots of failures, but if you win, you win pretty big. So a whole AR, VR, where there are pockets of really good talent in Pakistan doing something in that area. Also, I think with India, it was really interesting that it started with the IT business and also, software outsourcing, but we haven't seen the emphasis come out of Pakistan. And so there's a lot of small 40 to 100 to 200 developers all over Pakistan, but nothing's really aggregated and there's not a roll-up to be done across Pakistan. So you can set up the corresponding offices in the US to really take advantage of it and create the billion-dollar companies. So there is things in that area as well to be done. But software, to me, where everything's in the cloud, you don't need infrastructure investment, and all you need is people trained and setting up QAs and other processes, is an easy way for Pakistan.
Any thoughts on retail? I know you're from that space as well, so I think what do you think of that market in Pakistan?
So retail, I actually am new to retail. I was told there is a bed and bath in Pakistan, but it's a different bed and bath. So the bed bath.
A copy per se.
Yes, that's what I heard. Maybe I need to take bed bath and beyond to
That's an example of
Pakistan.
copy to Pakistan.
Retail is changing here, and there's going to be a lot of carnage here because it's as you know, Amazon's eating people's lunch, and they're way far ahead than any other retailer can ever catch up. So logistics and all that. But in Pakistan, we could develop stuff and sell on these big marketplaces. But more retail is going to be experiential, and it's going to be in virtual. So we could develop the technologies in Pakistan for that as well.
Okay, thank you for that. What we'll do now, just before we go to questions, what we'd like to do is have Andalip kind of come and give more of a bookend comment. We had the US perspective, we heard the diaspora perspective, we're going to hear the Pakistan government perspective, and then we'll hopefully have some Q&A, and I think we're on time, so I think that's great.
Thank you so much, and I'm absolutely stunned by the amount of enriching talk by our entrepreneurs over here. I mean, it's very uplifting and very difficult for me to add on to it. But I'd just like to make a few quick comments. One is that I've always felt, I have my family overseas as well, but I live in Pakistan, and I'm from both sides. I've been an entrepreneur all my life, and now recently I'm in the government as well. So I've always felt that the ideal Pakistani, and we'd like all 200 million of Pakistanis who live in Pakistan to be like that, is the overseas Pakistani. Because he or she is extremely committed to Pakistan, feels for Pakistan more than Pakistanis living in Pakistan, is probably more educated, more loyal, more honest, more law-abiding, and more brilliant. And the reason I've always wondered is why. Why is that Pakistan produces the best doctors in the world, anywhere in the world? You go into hospitals, they're the best. The engineers are getting prizes and awards in Middle East, in America. They're brilliant. Similarly, our IT specialists, they're 17-year-old, 18-year-old, making inventions, innovations, and I just keep on being amazed by them. And, the answer is very simple, that in Pakistan, we have not been able to give them that environment which unleashes the talent that a Pakistani has. Number one. Number two, I think what has happened is that despite having a constant heartbeat, living abroad and feeling for Pakistan, that heartbeat has not translated into going beyond the boundaries and difficulties of what Pakistan has been. Pakistan is a difficult country, there's no doubt. But this is the time, I think there was a time before also, but this is the time when these difficulties, not just by the government, but by the overseas Pakistanis, need to be dealt with. And I was looking at what are the problems of investment in Pakistan. We've had very, very little foreign direct investment has really gone down. Very rightly pointed out, there was a travel advisory. But yes, we all know that the travel advisory now is not relevant. In fact, we were just looking at deaths due to violence in the last 4 years. And I write in the newspapers, and I was just making a comparison over there. And these are facts, that in the last 4 years, death due to violence or terrorism in Pakistan have been 5,472, and in US it has been 55,224. Now, that may be gun culture or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that, yes, in the last 4 years, Pakistan has become much safer. And if the overseas countries are not acknowledging it, the overseas Pakistanis need to acknowledge that and to overcome that and work towards building up that image of Pakistan, number one. Number two, as far as the government is concerned, they're absolutely right. I agree with them. We were 148 out of 190 countries. And in the ease of business, and aside from world competitiveness, I was looking at the World Bank report 2018, we were 115 out of 137 countries. Number one reason given why people are not investing into Pakistan, and that's for the last 3 years, 2016, 2015, 16, 17, corruption. And so that's the cost of corruption is not just that there's a tax that you have to pay for every interaction that you take place with any government department, and that adds up to your cost, but the delays that you have and the harassment that you have after that. So I agree that these are all facts. Number two was taxation policies, and number three was basically documentation, and it's very vague, going to 47 departments to get your permissions, etc. So these are issues that we as a government are very cognizant of, because overseas Pakistani remittances literally run the country at the moment. You know what the current account deficit is, and it's the overseas Pakistanis remitting $19 billion, which are responsible for making the country go. But I was looking at the average Pakistani middle class living in America versus the average American living in America. And the average middle class Pakistani living in America is earning $60,000, which is higher than the average American living in America. So all these figures look at the potential. And yes, what we have done is that we have made an overseas ministry, and the Prime Minister, who is obviously a very directly linked person to the overseas Pakistanis, he's been fundraising for the cancer hospital from them for 22 years. We are going to announce a special package on all these things. You know, one window operation where you don't have to go for maybe 47 departments, but much lesser. Facilities to travel, facilities to give you space, all the corruption issues where you open up a factory and somebody takes over, and then you go into the court, and the court takes about 19 years to solve your problem. By that time, you've said goodbye to Pakistan. So all these things practically will take time. That much I can tell you, but the two areas, corruption and ease of doing business, are immediately going to be handled. And after a few years, with the travel advisory being much more conducive, I think things will become better for Pakistanis. But to the diaspora, and I think there's so much talent, Naveed and Amra, I mean, they represent the best of Pakistan, and I can see the hunger and urge in them. I remember I was traveling last year to Australia, and I was going in a train, and a young Pakistani caught me, and at that time I was not in the government. And he said to me that, you know, I want to come back to Pakistan. So I said, what happened? He said, I came here to study. So I said, what happened? I completed my degree. So I said, then? He said that I've set up a small IT company over here. I said, then? He said, yes, you know, it's doing very well. I said, then? Why do you want to come back? And he said, you know, because I don't feel Australian. I feel Pakistani. So I said, why don't you come back? I said, obviously, the type of earnings that you are having over here, you may not be experiencing the same in Pakistan. And he said, you know, no, madam, it's not that. I can live with less money, but I cannot live with the injustice over there. So that is the key problem that we are going to be addressing and looking into. But having said all this, I would also like to request that overseas Pakistanis and diaspora, that when you come to Pakistan, and at whichever moment that you come to Pakistan, you're already there, you have companies over there. Two things. One, there are excellent back-end operations which you are dealing with them, outsourcing, brilliant. But I think that you need to also look at the value-added, put them up on the value chain. Like I loved what Amra said, make them co-founders, partners, and they're brilliant over there. Get them into the marketing, get them into the the strategic planning also. They're brilliant over there. You have 120 million young Pakistanis over there, each with a brilliant idea. And while you do business over there, my 3 advisors, because I'm an entrepreneur myself and I do that with nearly every Pakistani and every overseas Pakistani. Number 1, when you come into Pakistan, grit over talent. In Pakistan, yes, talent counts, and we have very talented people. We had the youngest Microsoft, certified person in the world, Arfa Karim, being a Pakistani. But more than talent, and I generally feel talent is overrated. I think grit is the main quality. And if any country will test your grit, it is Pakistan. And that's what I've found. I've been in business over there for long. So you need to have that grit. Grit means the tenacity to hold on when everybody's pulling you down and trying to make you break through, when you're disillusioned and cynical about the system over there, and you land and the flights are not on time and the electricity is off for 16 hours and the tax guy gives you a notice when you have nothing wrong you've done. Despite that, you have to hang on. Because that's how the system is there. In strategic planning, we learn that you understand the environment and adjust to it. It's the challenges which stretch you. And I always say about Pakistan that anybody who can drive on Pakistan roads is a champion driver. And the same I say for anybody who can do business in Pakistan can do business anywhere in the world. So grit will outshine talent anytime in the long run, anywhere, and especially in Pakistan. Number 1 is grit. So that tenacity not to give up. It's going to take you 4, 5, 6 years to establish your name over there, regardless. Number 2, it's business unusual over there. You can't have business as usual. The type of practices that you will have in US and in other countries, they have to be radically changed, adapted. And that's where your passion will be tested. If you love your country and if you love somebody, then you always are willing to give everything to it. You're willing to die for it. So if you love your country, you have to have a purpose higher than just business. Overseas Pakistanis are, mashallah, they are well placed. They've made money over there, over here, over everywhere. They need to make money. I believe that any business who's not making money is a disservice. Because there'll be a burden. So, but having said that, in Pakistan, it's a higher purpose. You're contributing to the development of the country, so see it not as just a business transaction, but see it as making somebody's life, making a whole bunch of people live. You're changing people's lives over there. They are hungry, they're dying over there. And don't be discouraged by the fact that resources are going to be wasted. They may be wasted. So resources are pricey, but passion is priceless. So if you have passion for the country, it has to be business unusual. The last thing that I'd like to say about doing business in Pakistan, and that is, and I think Amra touched upon it very well, see opportunity in adversity. Education, tremendous opportunities. Naveed very rightly pointed out, I tell you, it is a land of opportunities. Yes, it's very bad. So you can do anything. And I can tell you a million examples of small entrepreneurs, Sami Mustafa, so many other names I can tell you. They're trying Sesame Street school systems over there and succeeding. And you can give any education systems. The government is dying that you give them IT solutions for schools and they will welcome you. So, and health, amazing opportunities over there. We have people who've done e-ilaj, medicine without frontiers over there, and succeeding. So you have tremendous opportunity present in every field. You just have to be patient with it, and you have to be purposeful and passionate about it to overcome these challenges. The government is there to help you, but the talent that you have, the passion that you have, the vision that you have is capable of overcoming that with the support. And maybe in the beginning, you don't see that change in the next 1 year or so. I don't promise you anything, and no business in the world just changes in a year. But one at a time, just go for that, because like I always, when I joined my party, it was almost finished. And for 22 years, every single day I've heard that it will never come in government. And and my motto in life has always been that to the world you may be one person, but to one person you may be the world. And with that philosophy, you can change 200 million people of this country. You all are very talented. We are very proud of you. And Pakistan is very proud of you. And we welcome you all. Thank you.
So on a lighter note, I guess if you want to build your entrepreneurial skills, Pakistan is a good place to go. That's the takeaway. But thank you, Andadeep. I think those were very, very useful comments. This is how we'll handle questions. We'll take 2 rounds of questions, 3 questions for each group, and then we'll pass it on to the panel. So, yes, the gentleman over here in front. I can speak loud, shall I just go? No, the mic would be great if
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. It was great listening to all of you. I
if
think
you could just introduce yourself as well.
Sure. I'm Dr. Mustansir Tanoli. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Fori Mazduri. We are like a LinkedIn of blue-collar workers. So we're bringing non-tech savvy people online so that they can find better jobs. Well, since I'm pitching already, so the magic is the people who do not have a smartphone now have star ratings online. So this is what we are doing. And I'll start by saying, it is very hard to find support back. I'm a PhD and I worked at MIT. But it is still very hard, extremely hard to find support from the government and the diaspora alike, very hard to reach. But we have been able to find support with other institutions internationally. Now we are getting us rated at USIP. So I think that is something we need to change. We have become really good at speaking, but we don't walk the talk. I think it's very important to change that. As someone who has lived in Pakistan for the last 5 years now, I think it's important that we Amra said something about exits, right? We need to ask, why are the startups not exiting? Because they're not getting investment to scale. There is no one really who understands tech investments in Pakistan. So I think diaspora is the one who really have to step in and start doing that. Another thing I wanted to touch upon is I'm a PhD in design, so jugaad is something every Pakistani is great at. So the way we look at kids getting education, our kids are street smart. You bring any Pakistani to America, they'll be more successful. You know why? We are really reactive. We can take things head on. But the problem is if everyone is reactive, it doesn't go forward. I know I speak a lot, so I will try to summarize what I'm saying. But really to conclude, another thing I think which needs to happen is our institutions are not really that bad. We have SECP, we have audited companies. We have been getting audited for 4 or 5 years. I was in Silicon Valley 3-4 months ago, and a gentleman who had made $1 billion exit would not spend $50,000 in Pakistan. He said, I don't trust the institutions. This is wrong. When we come out to raise capital, the first thing we have to defend is, is Pakistan safe? Do you have a company? I mean, of course we do. What do you think we had been doing for 55 years, right, or more? But this is something that has to change. So I would close by saying, please do add remarks. And entrepreneurs like me, what I've seen other countries do. People come here, there's an entrepreneur who has set up in DC a spot for 3 weeks to 6 weeks where anyone from around the world can come and stay. Now DC is expensive. We come here looking for money. It's very hard to stay. It's expensive, right? So there are small things that the community can do, help people, invite us in, do warm introductions. Otherwise, this will not move forward. SMEs and startups are the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the lady over here? Yes, the lady over there.
And he was worried we will not have questions.
Yeah, I was worried, and apparently that's not the case.
Hi, my name is Larabe. Thank you so much for the panel, and I really enjoyed hearing all of this. I came into this with a very open mind. I went to the panel this morning, which was full of economists, and this is full of entrepreneurs. So this has been a kind of a distinct privilege to hear you both talk. But I will say that the panel in the morning had a very cynical outlook of Pakistan, and you guys have contrasted that completely. So I want to know, first of all, why is there such a disconnect between the economists in Pakistan articulating what they did
Naeem, I think.
versus you guys? Because you guys have given, I mean, I'm ready to invest in Pakistan right now. So,
Wow.
I'll,
Success.
I'll tell you one
no,
thing.
but I just want to,
No, let me tell you right there.
Okay, but I want to ask my question to
You asked the question. Cynicism makes no money. Optimism makes money.
No, exactly. So that's,
All right? That's the reason despite difficulties, we are optimists because that's the only way to make
well,
money.
actually, that's exactly the point that I'm trying to make. So why are you guys not advising the government? That's what I want. You should be
We are.
in the
We are.
Imran Khan's
No.
advisory committee than the economists. I mean, I just love the optimism you had, and I guess part of the question is, why are you guys, or maybe you are, you can elaborate on that,
Yes.
not taking a more active role in advising the government? And this young man here articulated his problems and to coming in here.
No,
So
we
why
are-
is this not being taken part?
No, we are. I have personally already met the new federal education minister. I've also met the provincial education minister Murad Ross in Punjab. We are working with them. They are new. It takes time for them to understand how the whole thing is working out. But they are high energy, high hopes, and great enthusiasm. But that we has to be coupled with experience and planning. And so that is happening. So the reason I'm very hopeful is when I see a lot of energy, I can always channel the energy. And I think we are channeling the energy right now. And I see very bright future for Pakistan because, I think new people have lot of energy. And I think over the next 2-3 years, you'll see great improvement.
And just to add, I'm not particularly involved, but my father is. My 13-year-old son, Charlie, went to Pakistan during the summer, and he campaigned with Waleed Iqbal for the PTI. So that, and his name is Charlie, but he's given himself a Pakistani name called Fahid Bilal. Yes.
How does that even make sense? I mean, there's no connection.
So we're actually even open, and we're all looking forward to supporting the Pakistani government in whatever shape is required.
Yeah.
It's the gentleman in the back over there. If you can give him the mic with a hand up.
Hi. My name is Sibat. I work for GeoTV Karachi. So basically, I can agree with you that there is the potential in the youth, and they want to do something, but their only problem is investment. This is a small suggestion. It won't take long. Why don't you guys form a consortium, okay, and organize sort of a thing where you guys can put in the pitch and the people there, the youth there, connects with you, and there is an organized a group which can work better, and there is a communication, because perhaps the people there in Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad can connect with you all through email, right? But the people from Pakpatan or the rural Punjab or anywhere else, they don't have that opportunity and they don't have that access to you all. So is there a possibility that a project is formed here where there are 5 to 10 people, that entrepreneurs are there, and they can connect with them? Thank you.
I just would like to respond. I mean, it's not like nationwide, but there are platforms like we've been talking about how now within the entrepreneurial space in Pakistan, there are incubators and accelerators, and it's a very collaborative entrepreneurial ecosystem. And just to give you an example, that We Create is a model where it's a public-private partnership, and TIE, which is the Indus Entrepreneurs, TIE Islamabad chapter, conducts the largest startup competition in Pakistan, and we have an imprint that is nationwide. We conduct it in a manner where it's done in the major cities, but it also encompasses the adjacent cities of these major cities. And through these, startups have been able to get to the top, where they have been connected to investments within the diaspora all over the world. So this there is a connect, and it's not just TIE Islamabad. I mean, there are initiatives, and I do of course agree that we could definitely work towards making this maybe a more unified and more connected platform where even somebody from a very remote area would instantly know where to go to if there was a channel that they could already see to follow. So yes, that's definitely that we could definitely do.
I think the last few years were very difficult for Pakistan, right? We went through a major conflict. Things have just started improving now. The law and order situation is starting to improve now. It took a lot of effort to really sort it out. And Pakistan was a very dangerous place. It was for a while, right? But the last few years, the government has made a concerted effort, and Pakistan has become significantly safer than the US. That's the reality, right? That's what the data shows. And so things are starting to change. But I've been in Pakistan for the last 14 years and working in the entrepreneurial side. And I've been trying to engage the diaspora to come and support the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And it's been very, very challenging. I think they themselves were very afraid, right? A lot of them had become very cynical about Pakistan. They lost faith in it. And hopefully the hope is coming back. And that's the work that we need to do, is inspire confidence. And they need to feel the energy. And like you said, there's a major disconnect, right, between what we heard in the earliest panel where there's a lot of cynicism. While I work with the young people of Pakistan, the entrepreneurs, and I'm excited and I'm confident that in the next 10 to 20 years, we're going to turn around the story amazingly. Pakistan is going to become a middle-income, successful country. I'm absolutely confident, right?
Pakistan is, by the way, already a middle-income country.
It's not. It's really.
But no, listening to today, it was really bad.
It
was like, we're just going to go in this. The Groundhog Day. I hate that movie. But that was what we kept hearing. So
the reality is very challenging, but it can be easily turned around. The educational situation, the healthcare situation.
Yes.
It will be turned around, and technology, right, is going to be the key disruptor.
Because technology is changing, and we can leapfrog all these other countries. And that's what we need to keep the eye on the ball, is to leverage technology and not follow what's already done in other countries. Because
you guys
it's
are in
all
demand,
gonna
so
change.
let's see if we can punch in a few more questions.
Okay.
So, the lady over here in the white.
And he was worried about the interactivity in that panel.
and guess
This guy has taken so much slack from us. I think I would like to have a clap for him.
Yes.
He's doing the hardest job because we have given him so much tough time in the last 2 weeks. He's trying to do a great job. So.
Thank you so much. My question is very short, and it's about teamwork. I have a friend who's an organizational development consultant in Pakistan, and she had a client who was Japanese who came over and was thinking about launching a business in Pakistan, and he ultimately decided not to. And he said, my reason is really I have so much admiration for the talent of your people. I would say one Pakistani is more productive than 4 Japanese, but 4 Pakistanis are less productive than 1 Japanese.
That's a good one.
I thought so too. I've remembered it for years. And so my question is, do you think, first of all, that observation is valid? Do you think that there's a teamwork culture that doesn't exist that needs to be created? Or do you think it's shifted in the 8 years since that anecdote was relayed?
So I'll actually say very specifically, we have studied that problem because I have started many companies in Pakistan. I shouldn't say many, actually 3. And size was probably the biggest size I had, over 300 people, 350 people. So we studied that problem. We believe the very basic problem lies in our education system. And our education system does not promote team building from the very beginning. Our schools actually have no team building exercises up to grade 5. Now that we are writing sort of a new curriculum for primary education in Pakistan, that's what my charity does. I can't say it's my wife's charity. I work for her, like every decent human being does. So I work for my wife in this charity. In that charity, what we figured out is that if you don't teach people team building skills from very young on, they all believe it's my degree. I got a matriculation exam. I did this. They have no sense of that I am nothing without the people surrounding me. How do I go build? Second thing is leadership. I think that's another area we have found out that our education system does not promote any leadership. Yet people are naturally leaders. You just have to give them a chance. Look at this. So many people sitting here, we ask for a question, 6 people raise their hand instantly. You don't have to go look for leaders. You can just find them just like that, right? So I think this is something as we have to modify our education system and promote that, that will come forward. Despite all that, I think I do not agree with your consultant's comment that 4 Pakistanis are less than 1 Japanese. I've worked extensively in Japan. We have other issues in Japan. But my thinking is we have not given opportunities to Pakistanis. We have not had the experience. We don't have much of the middle management that Japan has. Japan has a huge size of middle management. We don't have any middle management. So I think this is an area where when we started moving companies in India, we didn't have middle management in India. What we had is that we could move the Indians from United States to fill in the middle management. Once we had, China is going through that problem right now. Huge amount of bottom, no middle management. So when you don't have middle management, that takes time, right? Again, Chinese are moving from America into China, filling up the... That's a hole that we have, is the leadership and the team building skills that we can import from outside. And I think that's a weakness we have.
So we're going to take 2 last questions, the gentleman over here and the lady over here, and I think we'll wrap up after that in the interest of time. I think we're a couple of minutes over anyways.
At 3:30. Yeah, 3:30.
Exact.
Delete.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? My name is Afzal, and actually, speaking of cynicism and optimism, I actually describe myself as cynically optimistic. And I also have a group of friends. We describe ourselves as humble narcissists. So, my name is Afzal. I've founded and developed a couple of companies here in the DC area, in the area of financing and real estate. Among my circle of associates, partners, associates, friends, we have folks that they can invest sometimes thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. That's one category of folks. And then we have larger institutional investors that they can invest. Like one of them, their limits are minimum of 5 million to a maximum of 750 million, all across different regions, including Asia and so on and so forth. And then there's a third category of people who can bring, they can invest their know-how, bringing professionalism and so on and so forth, and kind of structure to maybe something that happens in Pakistan or other areas. What I have found is, there's kind of like a difficulty in follow-up. So just like there's this conference, that is happening, I heard some ideas that are specific, some are abstract. I think a simple thing that can be made to move things forward is a more kind of structured follow-up. As you said, you guys are, 4 to 5 or so people with a lot of credibility. So there should be a simple thing done of, hey, here's my contact information, here's a follow-up mechanism, so people can do that specifically. There's very good structure set up, for example, in the Jewish community with folks who invest in Israel and so on and so forth. It's much, much, much more structured. And each conference such as this becomes much more productive. So this would be just my question and suggestion. What is there, is there a way for somebody to pick up the phone today, tomorrow, email, contact you guys, say, hey, here are some specific ideas, or what are some good projects or ideas that we can, pursue together, and things like that. So that was
OpenSV.org. We're all on that website, and you can get a hold of all of us, at least the ones in Silicon Valley. Yeah. And then Open has chapters in the Washington area. Open has chapter in Lahore. So there's a lot of chapters that and actually, as a group, you can contact any of us through LinkedIn, and we'll create whatever we need to do to help you.
If you can pass the mic to Courtney as well, I think she had a quick comment.
Sure, I just wanted to add one thing I don't want to go out, I'll add one thing before the last question, which is just the travel advisory has come up twice, so I feel obliged
Let's
to
discuss
talk
the
about
travel
it.
advisory.
Exactly. So I just wanted to say, because I think this gets raised with us very frequently, and I think I fear that it becomes a bit of a boogeyman sometimes when people talk about business in Pakistan, because it's true there is a travel advisory. It's true that we are obliged to have it whenever there are any kind of conditions on the ground in a country where American citizens need to know about it. But the reality is, first of all, there's a lot of conspiracy theories about this. Sometimes there's no political aspect to it whatsoever. It's entirely about conditions on the ground. And also it's updated very regularly, right? So there have been very notable improvements in Pakistan's security situation in the last several years. That's definitely reflected in what's said. And further, there's a new format so that it's worldwide, it's every country, and it's kind of like some sort of a level that's cited for each country. So for Pakistan, like I would encourage you to go look at the new format, right? Because for Pakistan, for instance, unlike in previously, it distinguishes between certain areas of the country where maybe there are greater security concerns than others, like in the Fatah or something. There's geographic distinction, and it's updated, and I would say that the level of risk cited when we looked at it recently is like the same as Russia, Nigeria, parts of Central America. So I think that sometimes there's a tendency when we hear from companies that are reticent to go into Pakistan, it's usually about the business climate and not so much about the travel advisory I wanted to
But how come you don't have a travel advisory for Las Vegas, where 50 people got killed? We have no travel advisory for Florida. We have no travel advisory for many, many states which are very dangerous. You have no travel advisory for France, where there has been 5 or 6 terroristic. So that's all we point out as Pakistanis, that, we have been singled out.
Thank you for that. Unfortunately, we have run out of time and we are a little bit over, so unfortunately I can't ask questions.
Another technology we invented. Yes.
Yes.
All hail Asha.
Okay, no, I just okay. So I think I'm the only Indian in this room.
Yeah.
And I'm the first venture capitalist from the Valley to have made over 10 investments in Pakistan by now.
I said all hail Asha.
So I just wanted to actually mention to this young man from Geo that what I've done actually is that my first company that from all my global companies that I've invested in, the first company that has returned my money is a Pakistani company.
Oh, yeah.
I've been tweeting about it. I've been sort of giving a lot of social media, coverage to that company. It's called Daftar Kwan out of Lahore. And so just want you to know that I'm actually setting up something called a recycle fund. So everything that I make out of Pakistan, I'm putting it into my Pakistan Recycle Fund. So it goes back into Pakistani startups. And I'm actually looking at investing in something called eBolt, an electric bicycle company out of Lahore, Gujranwala actually. And one company called Find My Adventure in Karachi out of this recycle fund. So just look out for that on my social media page, Asha Jadeja. And just on one note, on this one question about streamlining some of the procedures, for foreigners like me to come and invest in Pakistan, who should I speak to? Because 2 of my checks came back. And I mentioned this to Naeem, but this is something I would like to speak to, maybe to you, Andalib, and see if we can streamline the process so that, foreigners can invest easily.
Okay.
But thank you for that.
Thank you. So before we end, we would like to appreciate this panel's great energy. I think it was, at the very least. And I also want to thank them for having me step out of my stiff DC mode into more of an entrepreneurial mode.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. And the next panel is on state, society, and extremism. So we hopefully can have you participate in that. Looking forward to.